Hey everyone, welcome to Everything Programming Pro. So in today's video, we are going to build a deployment button or a loading button, you can say. So this would be the UI of the button. So as soon as we click on this, we'll imitate as if we are making an API call, and the button will change its text, and we will see this beautiful looking animation, uh, the loading animation here right on the button. So let's go and start building it, right? So I'm using code sandbox for doing the same. You can use any code editor of your choice, right? So first of all, to make this happen, we need a simple button on the screen, right? So let's go by making a simple button. What would be the button called? Button would be called as deployment, or let's call it a deployment button or a deployment app. Okay, maybe deploy, we'll write deploy app, right? So on click of the button, what are we gonna do? We are going to do some function, right? On click, we'll handle function. Okay, we'll call a handle function, and to define handle function, we will go right over here and we'll define handle function in ES6 way. So this handle function will do something, right? So as you saw, with click of the button, our app should start loading this text, right? So for that, let's create a loading state for the app that will be called as is loading, loading, and set is loading. This would be a use state. That means it would be a state whose initial value would be false. That means the button is not loading, right? So we can change this text and now call it as if is loading. That means if the button is loading, that the button state is loading, we will call it as deploying app, right? And if it's not loading, we'll simply call it as deploy app, right? Deploy app. Now if you see, we have this particular text over here. So first of all, let's change the styles of this text. So for this, I will give a class of, a class of button, right? I'll put it in curly braces. I'll tell you why I have done that. So first of all, let's design the button a little bit. So I'll target the class button, and first of all give it a background of any purple background color of, maybe let's go by tomato this time, right? And okay, I have mistakenly called it as BTM. It should be BTN, right? Please don't look at the button right away, because it's looking very bad right now. And it should be 0.5 rem and 0.25 rem. We will give it a width of maybe 200 pixels just for now. We will give it a border radius of 8 pixels, a border that would be none. Again, color would be white. Right now you can see we do have something now, right? So let's also give it the height of maybe 50 pixels to the button. Now it will look a little better than how it was looking before, right? So now we have a beautiful looking button. Okay, also let's give it a font size of 16 pixels and a font weight of 600, right? So this is our button right away. So also the cursor should be a pointer. Now we can see a nice looking button, right? So what are we going to do next? So in this button, this handle function, what will this do is, this handle function will simply set the state, that is set is loading to true, right? So as soon as I click on this, do you see, we can see the text has changed, but again we need to reset this, right? So for that, first of all, let's make a delay function. I'll tell you why I am creating a delay function to imitate an API call, right? So this delay function would return us a promise. I'll tell you why this promise. What would this promise give us? This promise will give us a resolve method, and we will set a timeout of this timeout. We will fetch from the user itself some millisecond, right? So this will resolve the function, and a millisecond of, sorry, ms, right? So if we see this, this would give us a small delay of whatever milliseconds user passed, right? So as soon as I hit this, I'll await this here. Okay, if we want to await this, there should be an async function, right? I will await delay here, and this time around we will give 3000 milliseconds, and again after doing this we will give this button, sorry, the state will change it to false, right? If we see what we have done, we have set a state to true. This will change the state of the app. Sorry, this is the loading state will change to true, and after 3000 milliseconds it will again turn to false. Let's see that first. Click on that, app is loading, and again after 3 seconds, that means 3000 milliseconds, the app is back to it, the button is back to its original state, right? So also this button would be disabled, so that we user do not click them multiple times if the status is loading. That means if is loading is true, the button will be like this, right? So now since we have done these many things, let's also put an svg over here, right? So in the button itself we will pass an svg in form of a image tag, right? Image would be there, and alt text of this image would be some button text, right? And the source, I have already put an svg inside this. I will also share you a link from where you can find this svg. So I'll put a source. The source would be, let's first of all import this. So I'm import settings, right, from one directory back, setting.svg, right? I'll simply copy this setting and put it into the source of the image, right? So now if you see, I have this nice looking what do we call it, a nice looking svg over here. First, now we have to make some changes to the button. So I'll give a display of flex, align items center, and justify content as well. This will also be center, this field, and a gap of maybe 1 rem. This would be just fine. Maybe around 0.5 rem is better, right? So now the button is looking fine. We have, this is functioning. Now we want to put an animation right away on this particular svg, right? So what will how will we do that? First of all, we'll have to change the classes of the button, again on the basis of what? On the basis of if the state is a loading state or not, right? So I'll put a dollar sign over here and write if the state is loading. Okay, let's not do it this way, let's do it this way. If the state is loading, right, then put button class as well as a loading class, otherwise simply put a button class, right? So this way around will we know that now as soon as is loading is true, we can see a loading class over here, right? So now we will target a loading class here, right? So as soon as the loading class is here, we will make some changes to the image as well as some changes to the, so now we can target, okay, same thing we will do for the image as well. Again, I'll simply copy this and I'll paste it in the, I will paste it here, and this time we will just remove the loading and we'll remove this, right? So that means when is loading is true, this image will get a class name of loading, right? Now what we'll do is we'll target an image that is having a class of loading, right? This way we can target it, right? So if you remember, we had this animation, right? So first of all, we have to create this animation. How do we create an animation? Using the keyframes. So I'll write keyframes, right? And I will put a, or maybe, yeah, spin is fine, I guess, right? I'll put a spin off. It will work at 100%, right? And what it will do is it will simply rotate one turn. Sorry, one turn, right? It will do one turn. Now at the loading of this particular thing, animation would be triggered. The name of the animation is spin for how many times, like this should spin for 1 second and for infinite time, and the should be linear, right? So this way, if you see, if I click on this, do you see this? Let's put it in the next page and also use a small trick of, let's put a height of 100 view height, and we can write display of, again grid, and place items, sorry, place items center. This would simply put our button in the center of the page, right? I'll just increase the size of this button, and if you see, we click on this, we see a deploying app. Maybe you're just deploying something, maybe you're just making an API call. Now you can see, you can put this button right away, and you can make any changes, and you can enjoy this deploying this button or deploying this app, right? So this was it. If you have any suggestion for the video, do let me know in the comment section, or if you want the code of this video, that would also be available in form of a Git repo, right? So that's all for this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.